Every year, 50,000 people are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. It isn't an immediate death sentence. In many ways, it's much worse. The mind stays sharp, but as time goes on, the body becomes increasingly disabled. Medicine can only help to a degree. It frees the body to move, but that movement is erratic and for some, almost impossible to control. Every day becomes a struggle between the effects of the disease and the effects of the medicine.
It was devastating initially that, I said, how can I have this disease? I'm 45, 44 years old. Why me,
I could not type at the keyboard because my hand was dancing all over the keyboard and double click. I'd triple and quadruple click.
Over the last few years, however, doctors at the Cleveland Clinic have been performing a procedure that is starting to revolutionize the way we see Parkinson's.
It's the difference between being able to drive, being able to work, being able to take care of myself, and not being able to do those things.
Up next on mRi, we meet an intern whose daily work will improve this procedure and help restore normal life to the 1.5 million Americans living with Parkinson's. Meet Erin Mulheron. Erin is in the Science Internship Program for Nursing at the Cleveland Clinic and is currently working in the Center for Neurological Restoration on the main campus. He is studying a revolutionary new procedure called deep brain stimulation.
In Parkinson's disease, people are afflicted by tremors along with stiffness, and they'll freeze up in their gait like when they're walking.
Not only is the disease permanent, but it progressively gets worse over time. Usually, patients are given drugs to alleviate the symptoms, but soon these can lose their effectiveness.
The medication that they were giving me to control the symptoms, if you take too much of it, then you start getting dyskinesia, where you're like moving like that.
Fortunately, the Cleveland Clinic is working on new technology that has been life-changing to those who thought all hope was lost.
So deep brain stimulation is where they'll drill a hole in the brain and they'll insert an electrode, and they get it into a certain part of the brain depending on what they're trying to treat.
In deep brain stimulation, or DBS, an electrode is implanted deep inside the brain where it sends out short pulses of electricity. Doctors can control these pulses and use them to essentially rewire the brain's internal circuitry. As with any brain surgery, though, the process isn't easy.
So if, let's say I'm in the operating room, they're gonna put, it's sort of like a crown on me first before I go into surgery. So what they'll do is they'll put me under anesthesia, and they'll map out on an mRi where precisely where they need to go in with the electrode. And so they'll listen in on a machine, and they can actually hear it. It sort of sounds like raindrops. It's the neurons talking to each other, and they listen in on that, and they can actually tell which region of the brain they're in just by the rate it's firing at. That's it.
Currently, the treatment is reserved only for patients with the most severe symptoms of Parkinson's.
The clinic has a somewhat rigorous screening process to see if an individual would be a good candidate or not.
After the surgery, patients are tested on a standardized scale to see how much they've improved.
Generally, the result of the surgery so far is 50 to 60%, but what my research is to find out how much of improvement there really is.
It's very important for us to know how much improvement the patient has so that we can then decide what we can change in order to make that improvement even greater. And that's where we're at right now. His project is going to tell us what improvements we've done so far, and so that we can plan to do an even better job in the future. We can't plan until we get his information.
The idea of brain surgery would seem intimidating to most, but for patients such as Joe, there weren't many options left.
Like, I'd push the knife one way to cut, some meat or whatever, or anything, while I'm eating dinner, and I wouldn't pull the arm wouldn't come back. And then finally, the doctor came in one day. It was my local doctor, Medina, and he said, "Joe, we think you have Parkinson's." And I said, "Well, how can that, how can that be? I thought people I had this vision in my mind, people with Parkinson's are always like 65, 70 years old. And I was, here I was, 45 years old, three children."
The disease soon made it very hard for Joe to hold down a job. The medicine controlled his life, and even so, he had to face the fact that every day his condition was worsening.
I wasn't depressed over it, but it was, how could this happen to me kind of a thing. The neurologist I was seeing in the Medina area said, you really should check out because you're so young, you should check out the clinic because they have, this BBS. And there was some apprehension, my wife and I had discussed whether, we should go through with it. And then we thought, it's got to be, it's got to be better than what I'm going through, at the time.
Joe had the first surgery done in April of 2008 and the second in August of 2009. The results took him by surprise.
Wow, it was like you feel this like electricity running down the one side of your body, and everything was fine. It took a couple minutes. It was like night and day.
So what kind of things can you do now that you weren't able to do before?
It's almost, Aaron, it's made my life almost like, I still have, obviously still have Parkinson's, and it's, never going to go away, but, there are days when I don't even think, I don't even consider that I have the disease.
Joe is only one of thousands of people the procedure has helped. Keith Peacock used to work for NASA before contracting the disease.
You lose your ability to make your livelihood, in my case, and it gave me that back.
I'm going to turn the left stimulator off right now. And look, it's off. I'm going to turn it back on. It's on.
I'm currently the project manager for decommissioning a nuclear reactor. We're taking a reactor and turning it into a green field. So I'm in charge of that project.
It's more than just recording data. Aaron is helping doctors create a better future for Parkinson's patients such as Joe.
We can't plan how to improve the patient's care until we get that information, and Aaron is giving that to us. Once he gives us that information, we're going to be able to improve our care, and then ultimately the Parkinson patient has a better quality of life, and that's what it's all about.
My experience at the clinic, it's been really great. I can't think of a better way that I could have spent my summer. I mean, I've just gotten to see so much and learn new stuff, so.
It's huge. It's really huge. I mean, it's hard for me to even say it in words. The patients, you've seen some of the patients, and it improves their care now, but if we can do a better job, that's what it's all about. We want to, I've had over a decade of it. Now the next decade, we want to do an even better job. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of Aaron in different arenas in the next 20, 30 years. He's going to make it.